Welcome to Rich Moving TV. Today we have an update on the escaped inmates that escaped down in New Orleans. I'm gonna give you a series of videos that I collected over the internet, and I need y'all to like, comment, and subscribe. This is Rich Moving TV. This is my views. These are my reactions. We the best. We taking it to the top. We almost at 1,000 subs, and I appreciate y'all.
Worker at the Orleans Parish Justice Center has now been arrested and booked into jail. The district attorney claims the worker shut off water to the toilet, helping 10 inmates escape on Friday. Police have since arrested 4 of the escaped inmates. 6 remain on the run. ABC's Faith Abube is in New Orleans with the latest. And Faith, you just spoke with the district attorney about the arrest. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, Stephanie, we were speaking with the district attorney when that employee was arrested and booked into jail. So details coming to us as it was happening. The DA telling me that he's extremely frustrated that there was such a breakdown in the system and that what they had suspected for days that this may have been an inside job, the evidence has actually led them to that. According to investigators, soon after the escape on Friday, they started interviewing employees at the jail there, and they actually talked to Sterling Williams, the maintenance worker there, and he was the one who admitted to investigators that during the escape, in the early hours of the escape, the inmates asked him to turn off the water to the toilet, that they would move out of the way and crawl behind. You remember we've been reporting that the inmates were able to get into a cell, move away a toilet, crawl through a hole, and got away from the jail running on an interstate. He, according to investigators, Sterling Williams, was part of that plot because he was able to turn off that water. I just want to read some.
So it's a jailbreak straight out of a movie. 7 inmates still on the run after escaping a jail in New Orleans. Surveillance video now showing the 10 inmates right here running out of the jail on Friday after squeezing through a hole behind a toilet. Now we have this new surveillance video footage right here. Check this out. It shows, appears to show 2 of the prison escapees walking in New Orleans through the French Quarter in plain clothing with their heads down on Friday morning. One of the prisoners shown in the video is actually arrested shortly after this video was taken. The other inmate is seen on the footage. Well, he's still at large. Joining me now is our Faith.
And we also gonna do a little deeper dive in the boy Derrick Groves. He's the most dangerous one out of the 11 inmates that has escaped, or was it 10 or 11? I don't remember right off the bat. But yeah, and it's still 7 of them still on the loose. And I just hope that they all make it back into that cell safe, because it can go one or two ways. You can go back in or you can die. And I'm gonna keep it real with you. I did time before, and I really don't wish that on no one. So for the youth, don't go out here committing crimes, because jail time is very hard. And yeah, it's just one or two ways with this, y'all. Life in prison, or life in the penitentiary. So stay out the streets, man. Listen to your moms.
And in the heart of that was one name that rang out heavy: Derrick Groves, a.k.a. Woo. He ain't just no hood myth or some name on the news. Nah, Woo was a storm, haunting them same streets that raised soldiers and took them. He came up round dope boys, stick-up kids, murder charges, and police task forces breathing down his neck. And still he rose, violent, loud, untouchable. Woo was born into the heat, grew up where the only job that paid was hustling, school, and that was just something to walk past on the way to the trap. Woo learned fast: keep your mouth shut, stay 10 toes down, and never let no man disrespect you on these streets. His name started ringing at a young age. First for petty shit, jacking bikes, flipping nicks, pressing other little crews, but it ain't take long for the stakes to rise. By the time he hit 16, they say Woo was already carrying his stick and moving packs like a grown man. He wasn't just in the streets, he was the streets. And the feds, they was watching, cause they knew Woo wasn't no average corner boy. He was organized, dangerous, connected, and worst of all, he ain't fear nothing. 2016, a body drop, then another. People ain't really talk, but the whispers all said the same thing. That was that boy Wu. Detectives started stacking cases. Jail 2020 hit, and the case against Wu, it came heavy. By now, the feds had been building for over 2 years. Surveillance, wiretaps, informants. They were stacking statements, phone records, jail calls. Every brick in Wu's empire was being documented. And then folks started flipping. People who used to ride with, eat with, call bros, started signing them proffer agreements, testifying in open court, telling stories about drug runs, stash spots, even bodies that never made the news. Witness folks say Wu gave the order for a hit on a rival crew leader back in 2017. Witness 6 say Wu kept a Draco under his seat every time he rode. Witness 9 claimed Wu bragged about airing out the Mardi Gras shooting like it was Baghdad. Some say they was lying, others say they was scared. But in that courtroom, them stories stuck. The feds ain't just relying on witnesses though. Nah, they came with the evidence mountain. Phone taps from Wu's Galaxy burner where he had talking in code about zips, sticks, and slides. GPS logs showing him outside the rival's house the night before a retaliation hit. Photos pulled up from deleted Snapchat stories showing stacks, straps, and lean cups in the background. They even had jail calls, Wu talking reckless, using coded language that the feds decoded later. Calls where he mentioned dudes had crossed lines and needed to be put to sleep. Wu's defense tried to play it down, that the feds were fabricating, stretching slang into conspiracy. But in the jury's eyes, that pile of proof was looking way too high to ignore. It all came down to that one day, courtroom packed, media lined up. The jury came back after 3 days of deliberation, and the verdict? Guilty on multiple federal firearm charges, guilty on possession with intent to distribute narcotics, guilty on possession of firearms and furtherance of drug trafficking. And the murders are not charged directly. It was considered relevant conduct, meaning they counted when it came to sentencing. Judge ain't hold back, called Wu a danger to drug runs. In that Mardi Gras shooting, that one made national headlines.
Hi, I'm Jessica Cartalia. Police in New Orleans are investigating several shootings that happened during the city's Mardi Gras celebrations. The first 2 shootings happened in the afternoon when fights broke out near the traditional parade route. 2 more shootings were reported over the course of the day across the city. 3 people in total were killed, 5 more were injured.
But we gonna get to that, cause see, Wu's story, it ain't just about one shooting. It's about how a kid from the trenches went from pushing grams to pushing bodies in the dirt, and how the feds finally caught up, but only after the damage was already done. 2017, the feds started moving quiet but heavy. See, Wu wasn't just on NOPD's radar no more. Nah, now it was the DEA, ATF, and even Homeland Security. Yeah, it was like that, because they knew he wasn't just out here hustling. He was allegedly moving work across lines that ran up and down the Gulf. They got eyes on trap spots, wires on phones. They flipping Wu's little homies one by one, trying to find a crack in the armor. But Wu, he was playing chess, kept his circle tight, spoke in codes, changed phones like outfit. To them alphabet boys, he was a ghost. But ghosts leave trails, and Wu's trail was bodies, burners, and work. 2018, first official Fed hits come down. Federal agents indict Wu on firearm charges. They say he got caught possessing multiple guns while already being a convicted felon, including a 45 with the serial filed off, a Draco pistol, and an extended Glock with a switch. But here's the twist. Them guns, they tied to unsolved murders. So while the charges on paper said firearm possession, behind the scenes, they were stacking the puzzle. The feds ain't moving unless they got motive. And with Wu, every weapon came with whispers, retaliation hits, ambushes, turf walls, all of it allegedly though. But the streets ain't need no indictment to know what time it was. Wu was out here, but not free. Indictments were dropping like mixtapes. Wu just moved slicker. Later that same year, boom, new charges. This time, narcotics trafficking. They say Wu was pushing more than just local weight. We talking multi-state operations heavy on pills, lean, coke, and weed. Federal paperwork called it a coordinated distribution network with ties to violent crews stretching from New Orleans to Atlanta and all the way to Houston. Phones got tapped, trap houses got raided, GPS trackers got slapped on calls. They building a case with layers stacking. every text, every dollar, every burner phone Wu ever touched. Still nothing stuck heavy yet.
Arrested. I want to briefly go over everybody's criminal history, or at least why they was arrested. Gary Price, 21 years old, charged with attempt first-degree murder, domestic abuse, and aggravated assault. Gary was the fourth of the 10 inmates who was captured after he was seen on the neighboring Ring doorbell camera going into an abandoned home. Next is Linton Van Buren, 26 years old. He was arrested in 2021 for second-degree murder and armed robbery. Van Buren was still awaiting a trial date. The incident happened on November 29th on the 9700 block of Chief Highway. The victim was identified as Ariel Brown, 34 years old. Next is Antonio Massey. He's 32 years old. That's the one the maintenance worker said threatened him with a shank. He was arrested for DA involving strangulation and theft of a vehicle. Massey has a history of refused DA charges. The next suspect is Leo Tate. Now Tate just 31 years old. He was facing second-degree murder charges and attempt second-degree murder charges in connecting with the 2018 shooting in which a 19-year-old woman was killed and a 16-year-old was sent to the hospital. You see, he accepted a plea deal in 2018 and the murder-related charges were dismissed, but he was convicted of obstruction of justice and was sentenced to 10 years. The next is Corey Boyd, 20 years old. He was arrested back in May of 2024 and faces charges of second-degree murder, attempt second-degree murder, obstruction of justice, and threatening a law enforcement officer. Boyd was among 3 people who were charged in the death of a man who caught the group burglarizing cars. Next is the oldest of the group, 42-year-old Jermaine Donald. He'd been charged with second-degree murder, aggravated battery, and possession of a firearm. Now, Kendall Miles, he's 20 years old. Miles was among the escapees, but was captured by the Louisiana State Police. Miles is facing charges of attention to conceal a weapon, introducing contraband into a prison, and possession of contraband. Miles previously escaped the Bridge City Center for Youth and was accused of robbing and carjacking a man in New Orleans in 2022. He was indicted on attempt murder and carjacking charges. Police said at the same time of Miles' arrest, he shot the carjacking victim twice before taking his vehicle. Now, the next inmate was Robert Moody. Moody, 21 years old, had been booked into the jail on weapons and drug charges. He was also charged with obscenity in July 2024, but he pled not guilty to all charges. Moody was captured on the 3500 block of 2nd Street with the help of a Crime Stoppers tip and is back in custody. Next is DeCannon Dennis, 24 years old, facing illegal weapon charges, extortion, kidnapping, armed robbery, and theft charges. He was apprehended on Dale Street. Now, last but not least, some would say would be considered the most dangerous person on this list, which is hard to believe. Derrick Groves, 27 years old, was convicted in October 2024 in connection with the killing of 2 people during Mardi Gras in 2018. But before we go over those charges and how he just now took a plea in 2024, I want to talk about Derrick's grandmother. His grandmother's name was Kim Marie Groves. In October of 1994, a man named Davis, a New Orleans police officer, targeted Groves because she filed a complaint against Davis with the Internal Affairs Division of the New Orleans Police Department, alleging that he engaged in police brutality. Davis had a relationship with Hardy, a New Orleans drug dealer, in which Davis exchanged police protection for favors. Davis recruited Hardy and Hardy associate, causing to kill Groves. Davis and Hardy planned the murder and subsequent cover-up. Hardy was the trigger man who killed Groves. And how we know all this? Because his partner later testified against him in cooperation with the state for a lesser charge. You see, families for a victim identified as Jamar Robinson and Brian Jackson, as well as the New Orleans community, was excited after a unanimous and powerful verdict on a Friday, October 18, 2024, in the case of Derrick Groves. Groves was found guilty on all counts, 2 charges of second-degree murder and 2 charges of attempt second-degree murder. The conviction stems from the tragic events of Mardi Gras Day in 2018, when what should have been a day of celebration turned into one of unimaginable loss. The shooting claimed the lives of Jamar Robinson and Brian Jackson, while leaving the 2 other victims physically and emotionally scarred. The case garnered widespread attention, not only because of the horrific nature of the crime, but also due to the numerous trial attempts required to achieve the conviction. Initially, Groves was convicted in 2019, alongside his co-defendant Kendall Barnes. However, the passage of a new law required unanimous jury verdicts for felony cases permitted a retrial in January of 2023. A mistrial was declared after the one of 12 jurors inappropriately read media 38 counts of the case, and a subsequent trial in June 2023 ended with the deadlocked jury. The evidence against Groves was overwhelming. The prosecution, led by Assistant District Attorney Forrest Led and Zachary Creel, presented a compelling case. 3 eyewitnesses courageously testified, identifying Groves and his co-defendant as the gunman. Cell phone records further dismantled Groves' alibi, placing him at the scene of the crime, while ballistics testing confirmed use of an AK-47 during the attack of what should have been a joyous Mardi Gras family gathering. In July, he was set to be sentenced, and in return, he escaped jail just 2 months prior, leaving the family of the victims in fear for their lives.
Years in the making, a man accused of killing 4 people, 2 on Mardi Gras Day back in 2018. He was found guilty on several charges, including second-degree murder.
WDSU reporter Ariel Brumfield joins us live from the DA's office with how this verdict is impacting the families involved. Ariel?
Well, you guys, this guy has hurt a lot of people, and it's been several years at this point. Investigators in this case says that Derrick Groves, he is going away for a very long time.
Y'all let me know what y'all think about this. This is very serious, and I hope they really make it back into their cell safe. I know it sounds crazy, but man, them cops not gonna play with them, man. It's very dangerous out here. Be living out here, gonna escape prison. Y'all are criminals. Y'all been convicted already. Yeah, just go ahead. I don't want to say turn yourself in because that's gonna sound crazy coming from me. But at the end of the day, just do the right thing, y'all. Do the right thing. Y'all let me know what y'all think. I need y'all in the comments. Y'all really not commenting. I need y'all in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe. Yes, like, comment, and subscribe. Rich Moving signing out.